This is Karen Ranzi. Today I am going to make a delicious low-fat raw vegan lasagna. Very simple and nut-free. I love this lasagna because I really feel light afterwards. A lot of times when I eat those heavy raw food nut and oil lasagnas, I don't feel good. So I want to show you because there were some people who asked about my Thanksgiving feast that I prepared and wanted me to make the recipes. So this is one of the recipes I made for Thanksgiving. I want to show you first the ingredients, and there's only a few ingredients here. I have 2 nice ripe organic tomatoes. I have 1 zucchini, and it's a nice thick one because I want to get nice thick layers of zucchini noodles, because this is going to be the pasta, the zucchini noodles for the lasagna. Then I'm going to use 1 small avocado, and I will be mashing it. And the avocado is going to be the cheese instead of nuts, which are usually the cheese. In the past, I've made lasagna with almonds. I've made a ricotta cheese with almonds or pine nuts or macadamias, and they leave me feeling a little bit sluggish. So I prefer avocado, which is a nice plant fat as well, but not quite as heavy as nuts. I'm going to put in a little piece of sweet red onion, just to give it a little kick. And this is, just a corner of a red onion. Then, inside the filling, in addition to the avocado cheese, I am going to be putting some processed lacinato kale. Now, you could also use spinach. I'm going to process the lacinato kale down to very fine pieces in my food processor. And here I have peeled off, I took the upper part of the leaf with the stem, and then the lower part of the leaf I peeled off the pieces, and so we have 2 cups of lacinato kale here. That's already coarsely chopped. And then I'm going to finely chop them in the food processor. Then in addition to the tomatoes, the fresh tomatoes, I also have about 10 sliced sun-dried tomato pieces soaking in water so that they become a little bit softer by the time I make the marinara. And I usually have fresh herbs, but today I'm sort of in a little bind, so I am going to use my organic dried herbs from Simply Organic. So I have basil and I have oregano, and these should taste really good. And those are going to go in my marinara. So I am going to start out with the zucchini. I'm just going to peel the zucchini right now because I want it to look like pasta. So I'm going to just peel all around this large zucchini. Make sure I get the green off. And of course some people won't mind the green, and then you could keep the skin on if you want. But for me, I like it to look just like noodles. So now I'm going to make my cheese for the lasagna. I'm going to scoop out the avocado into a bowl. And this is a nice avocado. No strings or black lines. And then I'm going to mash this up to be my cheese with this small avocado. And here I go. And just mash it in the bowl until it's nice and creamy. So you can see I mashed my avocado cheese, and now I am ready to make my delicious marinara sauce. So I'm going to start by just chopping my 2 tomatoes right into the blender. You can certainly chop your tomatoes on the plate. I know, like, I'm not going all the way down in the tomatoes to take that risk of cutting myself. So those of you who want to be extra careful might want to chop your tomatoes on the cutting board and then put them into the blender. So I'm going to put 2 tomatoes in here into the Vitamix blender. You can also do this recipe in a regular blender. You really don't need a high-powered blender as long as you have soaked your sun-dried tomatoes in advance. Mine are soaked not for too long, so it's going to be helpful for me to have this high-powered blender. My sun-dried tomatoes have been soaking for about a half an hour, and they're not quite soft enough, but I'm preparing this in the Vitamix, so they'll grind up in there. So I have those 10 slices of sun-dried tomato, which are really sun-dried and organic to avoid sulfites. And I'm now going to add my herbs, and I have here oregano. I'm going to put in a teaspoon of oregano. And I'm going to put in a teaspoon of basil. Now in the warmer months, when I can get fresh basil that's local, like right in my own garden, I love to put in loads of fresh basil. But for now, I'm using the dried. And I'm also going to add that little corner piece of red onion to this. And I'm going to turn it on and see if the tomato doesn't blend right away. I might add a little bit of the sun-dried tomato soak water. And so here is the final blended marinara sauce. It's nice and chunky. I didn't have to add any of the sun-dried tomato water because I don't want it to be too watery, because then it leaks out on the lasagna. So this is just perfect. So I do want to say that for your marinara, which I just made, that if you would like to sweeten it, which sometimes I do, you could either add 2 soaked medjool dates, or soft medjool dates, they don't need to be soaked, or you could add a handful of soaked raisins that have been just soaked for maybe 15-20 minutes and squeeze out the water so it doesn't make the sauce too watery. And you could add that to the marinara sauce. Some people like it the way it is without adding any sweet fruit. I love the savory taste of the tomatoes with the noodles, so I didn't add any dried fruit this time, but I did last time. Now I'm going to take my lacinato kale and I'm going to break off the leaves from the stem so I don't get any thick stem in there. And as I said, I have about 2 cups of lacinato kale, which is much smoother and easier to use than curly kale. Certainly, if you prefer spinach in this recipe, you could use that. So I am going to put this into the food processor, maybe chop some of the bigger pieces even more. The kale in the food processor, I am going to ground it down very finely. And so you can see how finely this lacinato kale is ground down. So I'm here with my mandolin. This is very sharp. You want to wear a protective glove There are special gloves just for working with sharp instruments like this, and I bought this at Chef Central along with the mandolin. I highly recommend this glove. So I've made a couple of slices of zucchini noodles on this already, and I am going to layer them in this square dish because there's only 2 of us eating the lasagna this evening. You could double or even triple this recipe if you like. So I am going to put down these noodles on top of the sauce. And you're gonna layer them a little bit over each other. And now I'm going to take this wide zucchini noodle, put it on the mandolin, and it gives me another noodle. So I'm going to bring that over here, and I'm going to do a whole row of zucchini noodles like that. Okay, so you can see this beautiful thin zucchini noodle. Really looks a lot like a pasta noodle. And I am going to continue to layer all the way across so that I have one kind of over the other one. And this is really the thinnest setting that the mandolin goes, so sometimes I'll add a little bit more over the top because I do like these thin noodles. So I'm going to do a little bit more and put them on top of the other noodles. And there I've got my first layer. Now I'm going to spoon on some avocado cheese, and I am going to spread that. Now the next step after putting on the avocado cheese is I am going to put some of the finely ground lacinato kale on top of the cheese, and I'm going to spread that. So, I mean, you could put 2 or 3 tablespoons, you know, however much you want to put on each layer. You really just have to get creative with this and see how it looks to you. So I kind of just improvise, spreading the kale around, or the spinach. If you'd like, you can also do what I did to my sauce because it was watery on the side, even though I didn't add any water. And that's that you can kind of tilt it over in the sink and pat it down on the top and then pour the extra water out of it. Will make the sauce less watery and the lasagna less watery. And now I'm going to just spread it over the top again. And now I'm going to make another layer just like I did, okay? With the zucchini noodles, the cheese, the spinach, and then I'm going to top it with another layer of zucchini noodles and the sauce. So here I go with my mandolin, making more zucchini noodles. So here I am at the very end of this raw lasagna, and you can see I put all of the zucchini noodles on top, and now I'm going to put the final layering of the marinara and spread it around on the top of that. So there's 3 different layers, and amazingly, just with the marinara, the avocado cheese, the finely ground kale, and that's it. Very simple, but I really like having the mandolin because the mandolin just makes the noodles really nice and fine, and you can put an extra layer of them. Yum, can't wait to eat it.